So I don't know how much I should keep talking about camp, but I can't talk about camp and not mention color war. Now, every 8-week camp I went to had this. And it was at the end of the summer, like probably during the 6th week, around there, they would divide the camp up into two teams. Now, every camp had two camp colors. Like Camp Kent was blue and gold. Camp Troopin was maroon and gray. Camp Wayne was buff and blue. I never heard of buff either, but it's like an off-white. And then Camp Berkshire was blue and white. And I don't even remember what Camp Tioga was because I had such a miserable time there. I don't even want to think about it. They divide the camp into two teams. One would be like the gold team and the blue team, and each team would have a theme and a name. Like in 1966, the first year I went to, was the Golden Comets against the Blue Vanguards. And both teams would have an art counselor assigned to them to create a plaque that they would paint. It would be hung up like in either the rec hall or the dining hall, depending on the camp, and forever that team would be immortalized by the plaque. And each team would have a counselor chosen to be, in most camps called it the general. At Berkshire, they called it the counselor advisor. But it would be a popular counselor, and it was a very prestigious thing to be color war general or counselor advisor. And part of the anticipation of color war was the speculation about who were going to be the generals. And they'd compete against each other for a period of days, depending on each camp. One camp was 3 days, one camp was 4 days. Camp Berkshire was 6 days. And they'd get points for each event. And then at the end, there'd be a song and cheer night or a sing night. And throughout the color war, there'd be practices where the teams would each learn all their songs and rehearse them. And then on sing night, each team would perform their songs and they'd be judged points on how well they performed them. So they declare a winner of sing night, but then they would total up the sing night points with the total number of points accumulated during the week and declare an overall winner of color war. And there was no prize. It was just like everybody wanted to win really badly. It was just a thing, and winning was a point of pride. Color War actually was very anticipated, and nobody knew exactly when it was going to start. It was going to break. And people were always guessing what day was Color War going to break. And they'd always have like one or two fake Color War breaks before the actual Color War break. And it was always done a different way. It was always a surprise how they were going to do it. And what part of the Color War break was they'd have the teams printed up on sheets of paper, or they'd call them Color War sheets or Color War flyers, depending on the camp. And they'd have some event, and then they distribute, sometimes just throw them in the air or somehow, some other way, distribute the Color War sheets, and everybody would just break up into teams, and then they'd just be on that team for the duration of Color War. I remember my first year at Camp Kent, they had a fake Color War break, which was really lame. But they had like this antique car or something pull up and honking the horns, and then they throw the fake Color War sheets in the air, and it was obviously a fake because of what was written on the sheets. It was a joke, but they also had the worst Color War break of all the subsequent ones, and it was really horrible because it was at breakfast. And the waiters had these trays, and they brought out the breakfast, and the trays were covered with tin foil. And underneath the tinfoil was the Color War sheets. And so Color War broke before we even had a chance to eat, and we all ran out of the dining hall, and we went until lunch without any food. So it was a miserable morning. We were all hungry. The best Color War breaks are actually created by my father, because my father worked for the Army, and he was able to get explosives like M80s and fireworks and stuff. So we lined up the flagpole, because every morning they'd raise the flag, and every night they'd lower it. And suddenly there were all these explosions, and then just boom, boom, boom. And it was all safe because, my father was trained and he knew how to keep it safe. And then in the middle of all the explosions and all the smoke, and suddenly the Color War sheets went flying in the air, and everybody made a mad dash for the sheets. And so Color War was officially broken. So I could tell a million stories about Color War, and I'd love to tell them, but I don't know if you're interested. So if you are, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just move on to the next chapter.